welcome to the final episode of Season 7 Eyes and Teeth, Funny for Money. In this edition we celebrate 40 years of an iconic British sitcom that has stood the test of time and continues to be streamed on BBC iPlayer, Netflix and BritBox, as well as repeat episodes on the BBC. And of course you can own them all on DVD in the comfort of your own home collection if you still have the need to hold something in your hand and can't get used to the new digital world that dominates us whether we like it or not. The fact we can still enjoy this series of laughter 4 decades on means that we want to hold on to the 1980s, those memories of sitting with our families, memories of our childhoods. Whatever the reason, today's guest is one of the key characters from Only Fools and Horses, and we talk about his pre-Fools days and post days, where he is now, which includes a lot of interaction and connecting with fans of Boycie and more. I bring up the fact that Only Fools makes me feel British. It covers the lives of real people struggling to make a living, but with family and friend issues, relationships, loss. It literally covers life, and John Sullivan got it right. Armando Iannucci, who was the creator of Alan Partridge, he says of sitcoms, if they are cast right, 90% of the job is already done. And I believe John Sullivan mastered this back in the day. I was 21 working in Cyprus in a hotel in 1996, and my local where I ate lunch and frequented every evening was an Only Fools and Horses bar in Protaras. They showed episodes daily and served the best burger and a pint of lager. When I met my colleagues there, I felt at home. I missed my family, but this bar and the atmosphere made me feel so close to home. The show has a bigger effect than just making people laugh. It has emotional connections. John Challis and I had around 40 minutes to talk. It's difficult to squeeze in all he has done in that time, but John Challis tells us where he found that laugh and character that merged into the much-loved Boycie. Welcome to Eyes and Teeth, and happy anniversary, John Challis.
Well, hello, Steve. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. We met at a convention up in Peterborough a couple of years ago, and yeah, you do a lot of signings, don't you? A lot of conventions based around Only Fools and Horses and Doctor Who. Is that right?
Well, I did before all this horror happened to us, and our year was sort of cancelled. Yeah, I used to enjoy them, particularly the conventions, with the Appreciation Society there, and quite a few members of the cast turned up. So no, it was good. I enjoy meeting the people, and of course, because of them, we are where we are. So
yes,
we owe them a bit,
Yeah, we appreciate that. I did do Britain's Got Talent, and so I still have a few of those fans left, which come to my shows now and again. So you kind of do get that following, which is kind of loyal, isn't it, as well? But yours is much larger than mine. I mean, it's incredible what that show particularly done for you. But at the conventions, I know Jeff Stevenson, a great friend of mine, and I think he appeared twice in Only Fools, but he goes to them conventions because I think if you perform in a show like that, then you're never forgotten, because it's such an iconic show. Only Fools.
Right,
yeah.
No, Jeff actually, you know what a naughty boy is.
All right.
He did one of the rudest jokes I've ever heard, which completely ambushed me. I think it was during a rehearsal for when he was in the show, and we were rehearsing something, and he was doing a bit of stand up.
Okay.
And I think I kayaked him at one point. I can't remember what I said, but he came back with. I mean, look at that. I mean, if you had a nose like that, would you underline it? Which I thought was absolutely brilliant. I was quite shocked, but
that wasn't
quite brilliant.
Yeah, that wasn't in the script. No.
That's the lesson you learn. I mean, never make jokes to a stand-up because you'll get even better back.
They may have left that in, John, because I think Jeff told me about that time on the show, and it was Rodney's.
It was left in, was it? I couldn't remember whether it was still in or.
I think so. I'm not sure, but I do know that it was Rodney's stag night, wasn't it, in the pub, and it was.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
It's a great episode. There's so many great episodes. I'd like to go back a little bit, John. You love the Goons. Is that your love for comedy? Was that one of your early loves?
I think that's when I first identified, what was funny for me. I was quite lucky. My dad was quite a humorous guy. He particularly loved American comedy, like the Marx Brothers, and also writers like Robert Benchley and so on. And so he'd talk about that. But the Goons sort of brought us together in many ways. I remember I just loved the anarchy of it, and the
yes.
It was so surreal, and these ideas of Spike Milligan had, like a giant airship, flying over the Suez Canal, but in case it crashed and people drowned, they didn't put any water in the canal.
It is completely surreal.
Which is, of course, completely illogical.
If you were
crackers, which Milligan was, and I love Peter Sellers and all his characters, and Harry Seacole, of course, but I always was fascinated by voices and accents and so on, and Peter Sellers summed it all up for me, really, because he was so brilliant with his voice. And so that's when I first identified with comedy, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, genius Peter Sellers was. And I've got about six or seven of Spike Milligan's books. I mean, what a genius he was. And,
sure.
And they inspired Monty Python, so it does go down in generations, doesn't it? Like who inspires who, and it's amazing how. I mean, my comedy loves really was from the 80s through to the 90s, and obviously the show that you were on was very inspirational back then. And I think it makes you feel very British, when you're watching Only Fools and Horses. It really makes you feel like you're with your family, because
you feel proud to be British. Yes, it does.
It does.
You're right. It is totally. It was shown up by the fact that they tried to reproduce it in America because of its great success here, and it fell flat in its face, really, because the Americans don't get it. They don't get that sort of humour at all, and they overloaded it with a lot of mugging and face pulling and so on with these crazy characters. But the thing about Only Fools was, I mean, all those characters were very based in reality, and everybody knew them. Everybody knew a Boycie or a Trigger or a Del Boy. Every town in the country had one. I mean, realised that to begin with, but it was soon very obvious because people would talk about it, and you'd be somewhere else and someone would come up and say, "Oh, you must come and meet our Boycie," and some poor sort of nervous bloke would be trundled forward, and he was called Boycie because he had a moustache.
Really? That's how iconic it became. Yeah.
But that was the key to it. Was I think. And since then, having been lucky enough to work abroad a bit, and you find it in all sorts of parts of the world. I've recently been out to Serbia, for heaven's sake. And that part of the world, they just love the shows, and they identify with those characters. And they've got them. They've got those characters out there,
Have they really? Wow.
I met them. It's amazing.
Oh, that's so funny, but it is very difficult to replicate a show like that. Like The Office the American version's great, but it's not the original Office. And me and my wife started to watch Shameless, and then last week we started to watch the American Shameless, and they're replicating the scripts and everything. It's just not the same. I think the characters are so genuine,
It's like us trying to do Friends.
I think we tried actually. Yeah.
Friends was so brilliant, but so American. They had about 27 writers or something, And,
wow.
And I think we tried to reproduce that with an English cast. I think it would. I don't think it'd work at all.
Yes.
It's about America. It's about America, And Only Fools was very much about Britain, And John Sullivan was so good at sort of writing about the current fashions of the day, the whole yuppie thing. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Just reflected what was going on in the country at the time.
John Sullivan was brilliant for picking the right character for the right part, wasn't he? And the role of Boycie, I mean, it was saved just for you, really, wasn't it? Was it written especially for you from John?
No, I don't think so. I was lucky, really, because I did an episode in his first hit series, which was Citizen Smith.
Yes.
Which with Robert Lindsay, which was a great success, ran for about 3 series, I think.
Yeah, great sitcom.
I did an episode as a rather dodgy policeman in that, and he came up to me afterwards. I remember the BBC and he said, "I really like what you've done with that character. I'm going to try and use that again one day." And I went, "Oh, well, thank you very much. Very flattering, But I didn't take much notice because, people people say all sorts of things, as you know.
You hear that all the time, yeah.
Nothing sort of happens. And I had a sort of theatre career as well. I was at the National Theatre the following year, which was something I was enjoying a lot. And then suddenly this call came, the script came, rather, would I come and do this cameo role in this new series, Only Fools and Horses? And I read it, and I thought it was very funny, and off I went. But I'd done a lot of cameo roles in a lot of shows up to then, and
yes.
Again, nobody said anything. Nobody said, "Oh, that character will be back." I thought,
Really? So that's John Sullivan, really, that saw that in you.
I think I got the part, really, luckily, because the producer of that show is a man called Ray Butt, whose name you don't often hear.
Oh, yes.
But he was responsible for casting a lot of the characters in that, and also for encouraging John Sullivan and getting him on. He has a lot of credit for that. And Ray had seen me in some theatre thing, I think, by accident, and just remembered me and gave me this part in Citizen Smith.
Yeah.
So that's how it happened. So it's right place, right time.
Eyes and teeth.
Brilliant.
Yes. You had to play quite a lot of policemen to get to that part. I mean, you were in Z-Cars, Crown Court. You've done quite a lot of, that side of the law. Were you happy to play the policeman, put the uniform on, but then it kind of took you to the other side, didn't it?
Hello. Yes, you've been following my career, young man. Yes, certainly yes. Well, I was sort of tall and ugly and sort of slightly laconic, I suppose. And so I was... you're right, I played a lot of policemen. Yeah, Z-Cars was one of my first television roles, and I played an awful lot of policemen. But then I was sort of ugly enough to play a lot of villains as well. So I was playing as many crooks as I was policemen. Sometimes in quite decent run, Coronation Street, for instance, I did about I can't remember how many episodes, but 4 or 5 episodes of that as a policeman. Yes, and there I was in Citizen Smith playing this copper, and then it all switched round, and now I'm associated with second-hand cars.
Did you base Boycie on anyone when you got the part, or did he come natural to you?
I did actually. Because I played so many policemen, I thought, God, what can I do? It's a bit different. And I remembered a guy I used to know in a pub who had this curious, pedantic way of talking like this, and
yes.
He was a man who knew a little bit about practically everything under the sun, and that sort of cadence, his voice, I just copied it, and I was always copying people and trying to do their voices. And
this may have been the Peter Sellers influence, maybe, in you,
Yes, oh, absolutely, yes. That's what I thought about Peter Sellers, and he was the first one, I think, to do an Indian accent, which I'm sure is politically incorrect at the moment. But suddenly, him and Milligan played a couple of very affectionate sort of characters who were Indians, and no one had ever heard anybody doing the accent before, and I thought it was electrifying, and I had to copy it. I had to go out there and try and do it myself,
and it worked.
All his characters, his blood knock, his, the old ex-soldier, all these characters, I just thought he was wonderful, and so yes, it was an example of that. So there he was, and that's what I did on Citizen Smith. And as I say, Sullivan came up and said that he liked it, and the rest is sort of history, I suppose.
Oh, that's nice. So, yeah, great history. But you did work with David Jason in Open All Hours before this role, is that right?
Yes, I did. As I say, I was doing a lot of sort of cameo roles in television shows for ages. I was what was termed a useful actor, because I could cross the lines. I had a bit of comedy about me. I could do the policeman, I could do the crooks, and so on. So I had a lot of little cameo roles. I played vicars and all sorts of things. I mean, real people. And
yes.
I was I was just very lucky, I suppose. Open All Hours was one of these, and he was a bread deliverer called Formula One, the bread man, he was called, because he drove at 100 miles an hour all over the place. And it's just a little scene, and he was late, and Ronnie Barker was giving me a hard time about being late, and there was David. And as I'm fond of saying, years and years later, there I was doing Only Fools and Horses, and there was David, and I said, "Hi, David, how are you? Remember me from Open All Hours?" And he said, "No."
Oh, really?
Well, no, it was because there were so many
coming and going,
so many actors doing little roles in shows all over the place, and I thought I was just one of those. I mean, if you can imagine the actors that had gone through that show.
Yeah, of course.
During that time.
Yeah, as long as when you
similar sized roles, very difficult to remember everybody.
Yeah, as long as when you see in these days, you don't say "remember me from Only Fools and Horses." He does remember you from that.
Oh yes, well, somewhat. Yes, we've kept in touch, and talking about signings, we did a signing together relatively recently last year, and.
Oh wow!
And it went very well. It was great to see David, and of course the fans were absolutely beside themselves because it was the first time he'd been out to one of these conventions.
Oh, that's so nice that he got to be there with you.
I thought it was a really good move of his actually, because he's got the same attitude as me, really. I mean, but for those fans switching on their telly, I mean, we wouldn't be where we are. So yeah, in some ways. You want to say, well, thanks for watching. That's what I say to everybody, who says, thank you for all the laughs. I say, well, thank you for laughing and thank you for being there. People were actually delighted to see him personally and have their picture taken and so on. It was a great day.
I was really excited to see you at this that thing in Peterborough. I'm trying to think the name of the charity that we did. Feel the Force. It was for my friend JJ. And it's for a disabled charity, and it's a convention for people that disabled and blind, and it was just an incredible day. So it was nice to meet you finally. But you're so recognisable, because of the moustache. But your laugh is as popular as the Del Boys catchphrases, isn't it? Where did this laugh come from? Was it an accident?
Again, it was a complete accident, really. And I nicked it from. Somebody else I knew who was actually a woman. I mean, nothing wrong with
that. They laugh as well.
But she had this laugh. She had this extraordinary machine gun laugh. And, she'd be in the pub. And she was one of those ladies you sometimes used to see, not so much anymore. But she'd always on her own, and she had a bottle of stout or something. And she didn't say anything to anybody, really. But occasionally she'd just laugh, like this. You can imagine Boycie's laugh in a sort of female fashion, sort of a real, which of course then made everybody else laugh. And people used to come to the pub especially to hopefully hear her laughing,
Really?
And then they, having heard the laugh, then they'd laugh and then drink up and then leave and go somewhere else.
Oh, that's amazing.
I did it. It is said in the script, Boycie was... laughing at one of his own jokes, I think, and I just did it. And everybody laughed and fell about and said, "Oh, keep that in," and so then it got into the script. Boycie does one of his laughs,
Oh, I love that.
So it's something I started, but I've been doing it ever since, really.
Yeah, I was lovely to keep something like that in that was by chance, really, by accident. That's fantastic because it's iconic, isn't it? People want to hear. I think people.
I'm iconical. Guess what?
Yeah, you are, sir. I mean, I think people are waiting for it, aren't they, as well? And I know you do these really great personalised messages, don't you, online, and you always end with it as well. And it's so nice that people can pay to get a lovely birthday message or something, or whatever the best wishes is, and you do these as Boycie, and it's so nice for you to do that as the character. And
yes, I again, it was a stroke of luck, these things, and I was doing a convention, I think, and actually it was a lady turned up and had a word, and she was from this outfit called Celeb VM, and they were just starting up, and she said, do you fancy coming on board, and people would love a message from you, and da-da-da, and so I said, well, yeah, we give it a try. I had no idea it was going to get to where it's got to, which every day, I've got people asking for a message for, their dad's birthday, wedding anniversary, or just recently a lot to try and cheer people up, going through a bad time. Everybody's going through difficult times at the moment, so, it's nice to be able to cheer people up with those messages. And, yes, I mean, I know what people like, obviously, the reference to Marlene and so on, they like all that. So Marlene comes into all the messages, and the laugh, as you say, people love the laugh. So
yes,
I tried to finish off with that,
Yeah, yesterday you tweeted a message. It was just really how are you and heartwarming from you, on Twitter. And it was just so nice to sort of send a message out there and in character as well. And, with a bit of jolly, which is what we need, cheering up.
It seems to work, because I wonder about that, what the reaction would be, because it's got a difficult area, because, people, as I say, people are suffering a great deal, and
yes.
It's a very, very dodgy time for a lot of people. So, but on the other hand, you want people to get out of the gloom, because there's so much gloom about. You want to lift people out of it, but also put a nod towards it and say, I know, what's happening. So I'm glad it's worked out so well. It's had an awful lot of retweets and so on. So I'm very, very, very pleased about that.
That was really nice. I showed my wife straight away. It made her smile, which is very important right now. I was working on Chroma Pier during the summer season. It was a show called Radio Days, and I took the original Archie Andrews, which I started to work with at that time. He was in the show with me, and I was on Radio 4, and a few people heard me on Radio 4 and come to see the show, especially like John Major and Norman Major came to see because they loved Archie Andrews, not me. and one day the theatre manager knocked on the dressing room door in the interval and said, would you mind if I let Lloyd Pack come back and meet Archie Andrews? And I didn't know that Roger was really into his ventriloquist dummies, and he was a big fan of Archie. So he came back and I met him. Did he ever talk to you about ventriloquist dummy collection that he had, or?
No, absolutely not. It's strange that I get, but it doesn't surprise me because working with Roger all that time on that, when he passed away, we went to the funeral and we heard people talking about him from different parts of life. Actually, actors who'd worked with him on other shows, you suddenly realise that he had so much going on in his life, but he kept everything separate in separate compartments.
Okay. Yes.
So I never knew that. I mean, I heard about it since, and of course you've mentioned it, and but very strange. I did hear about he loved his poetry and so on, and we did a couple of readings together, for charity and so on. So I knew about that bit of it. But the educating Archie stuff, I had no idea. I had no idea about that at all. And of course with Roger, of course he's a Spurs supporter and I'm an Arsenal supporter. So
okay, yeah,
never truly been friends,
went to different pubs, of course. Yeah, John, you were once thinking about giving up acting, but you never did give up acting, of course.
Oh yeah, it's like but that's just me. It's just if things aren't working out the way I want to, I tend to go, to hell with it and drop it and go and do something else. So this time's in the 70s sometime, and I think I've just been going through a bad time, not getting any work and so on. And I got an opportunity to open a garden centre with some reprobate that I knew locally, and the shop front became available, and we'd done a bit of work unofficially, and we seemed to get on okay, and I was always fascinated by gardening and so on, and so we started clearing people's gardens and all that, and they grew into this business. Unfortunately, we chose the wrong year, because it was 1976, the year of the big drought.
Oh, wow.
You couldn't get any plants into the ground, and hosepipe bans and God knows what, and it all fell apart really. And so I thought, here's something else that doesn't work, so to hell with it. But luckily, then I met somebody who gave me a terrific job, and it was the start of a sort of bit of a purple patch. So I felt it was sort of something I had to do to go off and to sort of prove that I wanted to do what I should be doing all the time, really. Sure,
and you fell back into it, which is amazing. I mean, I think
it's just a gap and away from it. A lot of people talk about it and say they just want to break from it. So, but that worked out quite well for me, really.
Yeah, and I think about it's about keeping your work sort of variety based, isn't it? Loads of different jobs, not being typecast in one thing, and I guess pantomime gives you that chance to play the baddie as well as. Do you enjoy all the boos and the cheers as much as each other when you do panto? Why do you love panto so much? You play a great hook, don't you? A really good baddie.
Oh, very good Captain Hook. Yes. No, it's one of the first things I saw when I was a kid, and I've always liked that sort of variety side of life, with comics and so on. You've usually got to, if you're playing the villain, you've got to go out there and work with a comedian. And the last one I worked with was Joe Pasquale, which was
wow.
Which was quite interesting, shall we say?
Yes.
But no, I mean, great. He's got a wonderful rapport with the audience and so on. And Billy Pierce at Bradford I work with, who's absolutely brilliant and so
wonderful.
on. And, yes, Bobby Davro. I mean, you name it. I worked with quite a few of them.
All the top comics,
but I love that area of life, and that sort of over the top theatricality I've always been quite attracted to. Because Peter Pan was one of the first professional shows I ever saw. My parents, I was about 6, 7 years old. And,
okay.
I really sort of fell for Captain Hook, and I thought that, the whole story, was just absolutely brilliant. And lucky enough, I finished up playing him on several occasions. Come Christmas, it's hard work.
It is, isn't it? I've done about 11 pantos. It is hard. I've had about 6 years off.
But the kids love it, don't they? I mean, as I say, it's usually the first thing the kids see, and see them bouncing up and down and shouting and screaming. I mean, it's just great. It's entertainment, it's as simple as that.
Oh yeah, the feedback is fantastic from the kids, isn't it?
Oh, conversational.
During this lockdown, I think it was the first lockdown actually, me and my wife got into Benidorm on Netflix, and I'd never watched it, sadly, but we got hooked this year. We've watched every episode now, and so we really got to know your character Monty, working alongside Sherry Hewson and Shane Ritchie, and they were very funny scenes. It looks like you had a blast out there in Benidorm.
Well, it was, yeah. It's funny about that, because I saw some early episodes of it, and I thought it was quite rude, but quite funny.
Yes.
And so on. And then I sort of lost track of it, and then I suddenly started getting calls about would I come and do a couple of episodes, and that's about 3 times I was asked, and I couldn't do it for various reasons. And then about the 4th time, Darren Litton, the writer, sort of got in touch and said, I've got this character, would you come and do a couple of episodes? And I had a gap, and I thought, well, I'll have a go. I had no idea what my reaction to Benidorm was about, because there'd been so much publicity about the place itself,
yes.
And it wasn't really my sort of
scene
idea of a holiday.
No.
But I thought, well, I'll go out and have a look. And of course, it was just such a blast. It was the most extraordinary place I'd ever been to, I suppose, and worked in, because just all these people enjoying themselves, and some of them going too far, of course. But basically, it was just so jolly. Such an amazing part of the world too. I mean, that area around Benidorm, so if you go inland, is absolutely fascinating. And of course, the coastline there, it's full of those wonderful beaches, away from Benidorm and so on.
It is amazing. Yeah, I worked there in '99. Actually, I worked in one of the nightclubs there. It was called Rockefellers, and I'm not sure if it's there now. I don't know if it's changed now, but I worked there when I was 23 for 3 months. Every night, I used to go clubbing with Eric Delaney, the drummer, and it's quite a vibrant place back then. But I heard about some cocaine and guns that started to surface in the nightclub, so I got out of there. But how different was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I think there is that sort of, anywhere.
Yeah.
Where that sort of money is being changing hands. I mean, it's open to that. I think something similar happened in a place called Las Vegas.
Of course, yes.
But there's an awful lot. Yeah, there's an awful lot of stuff going on there, but it's quite. I thought it was jolly though. The general feeling I had was that it was good-natured.
Yes.
Generally speaking, of course there are some dodgy people out there, but I mean, generally, I thought it was a good-natured feeling about the place. And eventually, I got asked to be in on a regular basis, for the last series, and marrying Joyce Temple Savage. That was an experience too.
Yeah, on that rock that you got married on. That was tense, wasn't it?
Yeah, the island, yes. But I was disappointed in that really, because I thought there's a real chance to explore a completely different character, you know. And,
yes.
I was very sad when they decided not to do it anymore. I didn't quite understand why. I mean, because the figures were still pretty good. You know, although it had been going a long time, 10 series for heaven's sake.
ITV stopped running it, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's a shame when they made that decision for the writer and the actors when it's going so well.
I know it's very, very difficult. There's a lot of sadness, and also a lot of sadness in Benidorm itself. The Spanish, of course, were responsible for putting it on in a lot of ways, and they did all the catering and ran all the taxis and. It was
wow.
great business and a period of employment for them, and all the restaurants and the bars. You can imagine over 10 years, they made an awful lot of money from the show being there. So it was very sad from their point of view as well. But there was a great family feeling about it, and everybody misses it an awful lot. And we were thinking about having a reunion out there, but of course the plague has put the kibosh on that a bit at the moment. But it might happen in the future.
Crazy times.
Eyes and Teeth.
You talk about a reunion. There's a 40th anniversary this year of Fools and Horses, and how will you celebrate? Will anybody be getting together if you're allowed to get together? Is there anything planned for us on television?
Not as far as I know. No, I think it's repeated, every day, isn't it, on Go?
I think we can watch it whenever we like, and we do. I think BritBox has bought it back, and
yes, and also don't forget the spin-off series, the Green Grass.
Green Grass, yeah, we were getting to that as well.
Boycie and Marlene in the country.
Yes, I was on a cruise actually, and Marlene, she was doing a wonderful chat on the cruise, and I went to see her lecture. And
yes, we both done a show on.
You do them together now.
She's done a lot. She's done a hell of a lot more than I have, and she's it's very entertaining.
Yeah,
very entertaining.
And so Green Grass was a wonderful spin-off as well. That's so nice to get that, because your character was so strong. And it was carried forward. Did you enjoy that?
We were very flattered that they thought the characters were strong enough to have their own series. But we were completely terrified as well, of course, because how do you follow something like Only Fools and Horses, which is so popular?
Yes.
But we did okay, I suppose. We did 4 series, and I think could have done more. And again, it was suddenly taken off, and there was our particular champion at the BBC left for pastures new, and a new regime took over, and they didn't like us quite so much. And so we came to an end, slightly prematurely, I think, but then I would say that, wouldn't I? It was disappointing for John Sullivan too, because I think it broke new ground for him too, because he'd always written something that was pretty urban. And this was his first foray into the country, and I suppose inspired really by my move. I moved out here over 20 years ago now.
Oh, okay. Is that how long you've been at Wigmore Abbey? Is that where you are?
Yes.
Yes.
He came to a party here, John, and I just remember him saying, I've had a bit of an idea, he said. I'll get back to you. And 2 years later he did.
Oh, that's nice.
But, we had 4 years down here, and it was great fun, involving the whole community, and so it was really, really a personal thing for me, certainly. And Sue came down and stayed here, and it was really, really great fun. Very sad that it had to come to an end, but I think these things do, don't they?
Yeah, they do. It's very sad loss, losing John, but it's so nice that his son Jim Sullivan got involved with the musical with Paul Whitehouse. Was you at the opening night? Was you involved at all in the musical?
Yes, I was invited to go, and I didn't quite know how to approach it really, because I heard about it very late. It was kept very secret, and none of us in the original cast knew that it was going to happen. Suddenly it was going to happen, and
wow.
Did I want to go along? And I went, oh God, I don't know, really. I don't want to. I had no view of what it was going to be like.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, Paul Whitehouse was involved, which was a great plus for them. but what shape it was going to take,
yes,
and so on, and also how it would feel seeing an audience watching your character being played by somebody else, which had never happened to me before.
Yeah, that must be difficult to watch.
Odd. Yeah, and of course, I didn't want to sort of take away from them because they were all understandably very nervous, I think, on the first night of how it was going to go down, as well as the usual thing about, oh my God, it's an opening night and can we remember all the words and songs. But anyway, I went and it was brilliant. I mean, I have to say it was a very entertaining evening. They'd done all these Chas and Dave type songs, and
yes.
And of course, Jim was heavily involved, and they'd really taken care of it, and the characters really came across. And no, I enjoyed it. It was still a bit odd for me, but I met all the cast, the new cast later, and they were in great form. And Paul Whitehouse wasn't very well actually on that opening night, unfortunately, But it was a great show, and obviously the audience loved it, and they all stood up and gave it a round of applause. And it ran, right up until the start of this ghastly pandemic.
I know. I think they're planning to bring it back again, and it's ready to go once we're allowed.
I'm surprised, because it's very popular.
Yeah, I heard that the audience are like proper Only Fools fans, and there's families sat there with pints or something. They're sitting there like they're at the pub watching Only Fools and Horses. It's a wonderful atmosphere of British culture. We just sat there watching this musical because we want more Fools and Horses, and I think that's what it's about. We don't want to let go of the fact there may not be anymore.
It's happy times. It gives everybody such happy memories. I mean, contemporaries of ours, about the same in their 70s and so on. They say, and they get all misty-eyed about the early episodes, and they remember the stories and the lines and the characters and so on. So, I think there's space for it. And there absolutely is. It's why people go and watch people singing like ABBA.
Yes,
yeah. I saw one relatively recently that there's a band doing the Eagles, who's a big fan of their music, and they were absolutely brilliant. They didn't look like the Eagles at all. They're sort of middle-aged bald blokes, in glasses. But they reproduce what the Eagles had, absolutely.
Amazing. There's a great tribute called Talon, I think, that play this wonderful Eagles tribute.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's the one I saw, I think. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
And there's that. It is nostalgia, and you can be rude about it, but I mean, people love all that, So I always relate it to the music, It's songs you heard when you were kid and fancy free, and it just brings all those early days back. So
those memories back, yeah.
So good on them.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I think it's the fact of seeing the next best thing if you can't see the real thing, isn't it? That's what they want to see.
I suppose so, yeah. I guess that's what it is, yeah.
And hearing about all the memories.
You still miss the original, but...
oh, yes.
But you come out, smiling. You come out smiling and they had a good time, and that's what entertainment is about.
Oh, amazing. Now, John, just before we go, and thank you so much for your time, we can get to know more about your memories and your history in your books. You've got Being Boycie and Boycie and Beyond, which I've got in front of me here. And you can do this through your website, and you do sign them to your fans, which is so nice of you to do that. But can you give us your website, and where can we get your books?
Now, my website, yes. So the website is wigmillbooks.com, all in little letters, of course, .com, and that'll give you links to lots of other stuff I've done. I've done a sort of a documentary in Serbia trying to find out why Only Fools is so popular out there. People might be interested in it. But there's all sorts of stuff, and the 2 books, as you say, and a book about Wigmore Abbey where we did the green grass too. So anyway, it's links to all that sort of thing.
Fantastic.
Boycie in Belgrade, that's the... That's .com, boycieinbelgrade.com. If you want to put that out as well, I mean, that'll give you a link to the Serbian thing, which people might quite find interesting, I think.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic. John, thank you so much, and have a great day. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, mate.
Not at all.
All the best.
Stay safe out there, and I'll see you again, I hope.
Thank you to John for all the anecdotes about those days. It brings us pure joy even talking about the show. And as soon as I edit this, I have an episode or 2 set up ready to watch with a cup of tea this afternoon. If you want to connect with John and book one of his personal video messages for a loved one, then check out celebvm.com. To buy his documentary on DVD, go to www.boycieinbelgrade.com. Here are some reviews about the documentary. That's the last time I let Boycie go to Belgrade without me. Sue Holderness. Marlene. Everybody loves Only Fools and Horses. I didn't know how big it is in the Balkans. Ricky Hatton. Del Boy would have dreamed of such an export deal. Daily Express. Serbians actually loving Only Fools and Horses, a must-watch for any Fools fan or not. Paul Chuckle. A genuinely interesting documentary with a showbiz twist, a terrific watch. 5 stars. Nick Owen. For his books, Being Boycie and Beyond Boycie, and more books on Wigmore Abbey or John's own creation Reggie, signed or non-signed, go to www.wigmorebooks.com. Today's quote comes from Peter Sellers. I'm a classic example of all humourists. Only funny when I'm working. Eyes and Teeth is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals by Lola, Larissa and Nina Hewlett. Additional vocals by Rich T. The Eyes and Teeth music and jingles are produced and performed by Kevin Dean. Thanks for listening to Eyes and Teeth Funny for Money Season 7. If you are enjoying these seasons, please download on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to these. Leave a 5-star review and share with all your friends all these wonderful stories. Join me next time for Season 8 when I treat you to Part 2 of The Water Rats. Take care, everyone.